We always think a deal is a deal. Simple, right? But in the world of money and law, oh man, the words you use are everything. The difference between calling something a barter versus a sale? It can literally be the difference between a friendly handshake and a massive lawsuit. So today, we're going to dig into why the language of your money is just so incredibly important.
So let's just jump right in. Imagine you're trading sugar for whiskey. Seems pretty straightforward, doesn't it? But what happens when that simple trade gets you accused of breaking the law? Suddenly, it's not so simple anymore.
And that brings us to our first big idea, barter. And honestly, the best way to really get a grip on its power is through this fascinating legal case from way back in 1949, Herreras versus Javellana.
Okay, so here's how this seemingly simple deal just completely unraveled. Herreras gives Javellana a bunch of sugar, and he's expecting whiskey back in return. But then, whoops, Javellana runs out of whiskey. So he gives Herreras an IOU for the value of what he still owes. And right there, that's when everything changed. Suddenly, Herreras found himself accused of an illegal sale, all because the value on that piece of paper was higher than the government's official price for sugar. See how fast that escalated?
So what was this deal really? Let's just strip it all down to the basics. What is a barter, legally speaking? Well, it's exactly what you think it is. You give one thing, you get another thing. That's it. No money changes hands, no price tags, just a direct swap. And you know what? That's exactly how the court saw it. Even with that promissory note and all the drama about the price, the court ruled that the original agreement, at its heart, was a valid barter. It was not a sale.
So you might be wondering, why? Why did the court side with barter? Well, it all boiled down to one crucial thing: intent. The original deal was always, from the very beginning, goods for goods. That promissory note, it didn't magically turn the deal into a sale. It was just a placeholder, a way to put a number on the whiskey he was still owed. The court was smart. It saw that price control laws are for cash sales, and this was just a genuine exchange between two people, not some sneaky scheme to get around the law.
And this brings us to a huge lesson. What you call something doesn't always change what it is. That promissory note couldn't turn a barter into a sale. And, as we're about to see, the labels we slap on financial deals can be just as misleading. Let's see how this whole idea plays out with loans.
All right, first, let's clear something up. We use the words loan and credit all the time, sometimes like they're the same thing. They're not. A loan, think of it like a bottle of water. You get a fixed amount, one lump sum. Once you drink it, it's gone. A line of credit, on the other hand, that's more like a tap. You can keep refilling. You have access to money up to a certain limit, and as you pay it back, you can use it again and again. It's revolving.
Okay, keeping that difference in mind, let me throw another case at you. You've got a bank president and he approves a 300,000 peso credit for a company. The catch? His wife is a major partner in that company. He argues it's not an illegal loan. So the question is he right? Can he really get away with that?
So in his defense, this bank president, his name was Concepcion, he tried to get clever with the wording. He claimed he didn't give a loan, he gave a discount. He pointed to all these little technical differences, like when the interest gets paid. But the court, they weren't buying it for a second. Their verdict was crystal clear. A discount is just another way of loaning money. You can call it whatever you want, but a loan is a loan. And the ruling came down hard. The court called it an illegal, indirect loan. Now, why indirect? Well, here's the kicker. The loan was to his wife's company. And legally, their finances are connected. So a loan to her partnership was basically a loan to himself. This was a textbook violation of the law that's designed to stop bankers from using their power to enrich themselves. All right, so we've seen how the tiny details matter, from the goods you're trading to the exact words you use. Now let's switch gears and explore what happens when you decide to pay off a debt with property instead of cash. This brings us to a concept called dasan in pago. Dasan in pago. Sounds kind of fancy, right? But the idea is actually super simple. Instead of giving your creditor cash to settle a debt, you give them a piece of property. The law looks at this just like a sale. Basically, the creditor is buying your property, and the price they pay is wiping out your debt. Sounds like a pretty sweet deal, maybe even a win-win. But you know how it goes. Whenever money and property get mixed up, things can get real messy real fast. And we're about to look at a case that is a perfect example of how not to do it.
In this particular case, the court saw some major red flags. I'm talking giant, waving red flags. The land was supposedly sold for a price that was just ridiculously low compared to what it was actually worth. Plus, the guy who sold it never even moved out. And on top of that, there wasn't even clear proof of the original debt. So the court called it what it was, an equitable mortgage. That's just a legal term for a loan disguised as a sale. And the big takeaway? The creditor couldn't just take the land. Nope, they had to go through the whole legal foreclosure process, just like a bank would.
So how do you make sure you do adation in Pago the right way and avoid all that mess? Well, thankfully, a later case laid it out for us in a simple 3-step guide. Step 1, negotiate. Both of you need to agree on the property and exactly how much debt it's wiping out. Step 2, perfection. You need a clear meeting of the minds, where the creditor formally accepts the property as payment. And step 3, consummation. You actually deliver the property, turn over the keys, hand over the title. You follow those steps, that debt is legally gone.
Okay, now for our final topic, and honestly, this one affects pretty much every financial deal you'll ever make: interest. Specifically, what happens when a debt doesn't get paid on time? The rules on this have changed so dramatically, you are definitely going to want to pay close attention.
I need to be absolutely crystal clear about this. If you think you know how interest works on legal judgments, I need you to just wipe the slate clean. Forget it. The old rules, they're gone. Thrown out. We are in a completely new era.
The new rule, which comes from a massive landmark case in 2019, is incredibly simple but so powerful. Here it is. The interest rate you agreed to in your contract applies until the debt is paid in full. Not until you get a court judgment, not until a judge says so, until every last cent is paid.
So let's break down what this actually looks like. If your contract has an interest rate, say 24%, that's the rate that keeps running until the debt is totally gone. If your deal didn't specify a rate, then the legal rate of 6% per year applies, again until it's fully paid. And get this, that 6% rate also applies to any unpaid interest that starts to pile up. It's interest on interest. The most important thing to remember here is that the clock does not stop ticking.
From barters that aren't really sales, to loans disguised as something else, to the nitty-gritty of interest payments, we've seen over and over again how much the details matter. The words, the intent, the fine print, it can all come back to bite you. So, the ultimate takeaway, the question you have to ask yourself before you sign anything is this: your contract is the law. Did you read it?